way.
Up to the center, please.
Please.
Your hand a bit lower.
Yeah, in the middle. In the middle. He's in the middle. Straight ahead, please. Straight ahead, please. Hello. Okay, this way in front of you. Sally, please. Sally. Sally, middle, yeah. This way.
Not too close. No, stand back. Okay.
Sally. Sally first. Sally Sally, in front of you, yeah. This way. Look up. Sally, here. One here. Sally, wait. This way. Middle. Sally. Give us away. Everyone in the middle. Left. Sally. Just you. Thank you. Mike, please. Mike. Sally, Mike. Okay, this way on.
Hey, one more set of hands up, please.
Right here.
Yes.
Left, please. Don't forget the left side.
Can you look over here in the center?
Left and left side.
Thank you.
The left.
And up, please. Up and up, please.
Yeah. Right here in the corner, please. Mike, please.
Mike again this way.
Mike, this way.
Mike in the corner,
One more
please.
time over here, please.
The both left, please. Mike.
Oh, sembra che stai in barriera, no? Ok, Mike.
Can you wait, please? Can you wait, please?
Mike here. Mr. Leigh.
Mr. Leigh, down here, please. Down here, please. Down here. Thank you. Can you wait, please?
Down in the middle. Down here. On the left, please.
On the left side, please.
Down here, please.
This way. Mike, please. Listen, come back to the center. Mike, over here. Mike, in the center.
How are we doing?
And look over here, please, in the corner. Down here, please. Down here, yeah.
On third row, up here. Okay.
Okay, straight ahead.
This way, right in the middle, please. Up. Second row, up.
Give us a side on the left.
Okay, this way in front of you.
One side. sign on the left. Please.
Here. Just here.
One sign here.
The center here.
On the left side. One sign. This way on the left. Please, up. This way.
On va peut-être se relâcher là. Give us a wave. Two waves. This way.
This way. This way.
And the left side. Thank you.
So, photographers, thank you. Film people, thank you very much. If you do need a translation from the German question, we've got these earphones here.
Are they tuned into?
These into English, yes. They should be. So, yes, welcome to the press conference of the competition film, a world premiere, I must say, happy-go-lucky. We're very pleased to have the main people of the film here. I'll start at the far end and introduce the producer of the film, who is Simon Channing Williams. From Thin Man Films, and he has worked together with Mike Leigh now for 20 years, and so it's a kind of anniversary. And next to Simon is the lovable puppy, Sally Hawkins.
Thank you very much.
And then, of course, Mike Leigh. He has won a Golden Lion and a Palme d'Or and had nominations for Oscars, but he's here for the first time in competition in Berlin, strangely enough. He's been here with 2 other films before. And now the Eddie Marsan is the actor of Scott, the less lovable driving instructor. Who also did a wonderful job. Now I'd like to take your questions right away, and raise your hand and wait for the microphone, please. Over here, the first hand to go up was this lady.
Hi, this is Carol Guerrero from W Radio in Colombia, here. My question is for director Mr. Mike Leigh. This is something new for me. I mean, Becoming of Yours is like a very nice comedy, and I would like to know why you changed, because before I saw drama from you, so I would like to know why you changed. And also, you have a lot of experience talking about the Oscars, so I would like to know your favorites for next edition in LA. Thanks.
I'd like to answer the second part of your question first. I'm not disposed to air any views at all about the Oscars. I wouldn't want to waste time at this very important press conference discussing the Oscars, so I won't answer that part of the question. But your question is, why have I changed to doing something different? And I suppose by that you mean, I think you said, a comedy, a light comedy or something of that sort. I haven't changed at all. I've never made a film that didn't contain comic elements. And this film, though it is absolutely a comedy, it has absolutely serious intent, and it has its dark side as well. However, having said that, I do try, every time I make a film, to do something different, and I try not to repeat what I've done before. And this film certainly is different in the sense that it, it expresses a feeling which I think is very important to express, and that is that since it is understandable that at the beginning of the 21st century, when we're in a world that's heading towards disaster, it's important that I just feel it's necessary to reject the kind of growing fashion to be miserabilist, the fashion to be pessimistic and gloomy. Because whilst the world is in a bad way, everywhere, people on the ground are getting on with it, to being positive. And that's what this film is about. It's one of the films it's about. Poppy is a positive person who confronts things and deals with them and is not prepared to be negative. It's also a film about love, and love is something that motivates us all. But there's nothing new about it except perhaps the way that the story works, the way that it works on you. My experiment was to make something happen that would creep up on you so that you weren't quite sure why it's happening or how it's happening, but somehow, gradually, as you get into the film and you get into Poppy, into this very positive woman, you start to feel something without knowing why you're feeling it, and you start to be enriched by it in some way.
Thank you. Here was the next question, please.
Thank you. Alexei Medvedev, Moscow Daily Newspaper, News Time. First of all, thank you very much for a wonderful, amazing movie. On my opinion, by far the best at this film festival, until now at least. I was really just carried away with it. But I'm afraid I have a very banal question, which is to the film director and to both actors, that the characters, they're so colorful, so temperamental. They always make me believe, made me believe that flamenco is an English invention. And
it is.
I thought so.
Yes, no, it is.
This was the first part of my question. But the sort of cliche view of England and Great Britain is that the people are more restrained. So the question, where do these characters, where do this world of yours come from? Does it come from everyday reality? Do you observe such people, situations in the real life? Does it come maybe from the past when we were younger and friendlier? Or does it come from your imagination? Thank you.
Well, these characters, and you can both say something, I don't know. These characters, of course, in immediate terms, they are our creation. We are in the business of making fiction. But we can only do what we do because we draw from life as we know it and understand it. If there's something in your question, and I think there probably is, but you didn't quite say it, about the Englishness or the English aspect of Happy-Go-Lucky. I mean, I have to say, as I always say about my films, that although the milieu is quite specific, because England, London is where we know and grow roots and make our set our films. There's nothing. The film is not about England. It's not about Englishness or about Britishness or anything. It's about. You can all relate to it in a very straightforward way. So there's no agenda in the film that's to do with things English as such, but it comes from life, you know, and we don't make these characters up. We don't invent them in a kind of vacuum. Because we're plugged into the world. Do you want to?
Yes. I mean, when we started the project, there was nothing, and you don't know where you're going to end up or what the character is going to be, and that's the beauty of working on a Mike Leigh film. It's both scary, but also very exciting at the same time. But Poppy is a Londoner. I mean, she was brought up in North London, and just the fact that she is living and working in London and has lived in London all her life, and loves London. She is I suppose, a London girl. But I think I don't think she's necessarily. I mean, you didn't set out to make a British film as such, but yeah, she's engaged and excited by London, and
but she's excited by life, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it wouldn't matter where she is, and in what city she is. I think she loves. She'd make the best of wherever she was.
Eddie, would you like to comment too?
I think it. Basically, if you spend as long as Mike does working on characters and developing characters through improvisation, you get to the essence of characters. And once you get to the essence of a character, and that informs your portrayal, the essence of characters are universal. So that's why it begins to break down barriers and preconceived ideas about locations and context, because the characters, the essence is universal, and the essence is very clear.
Thank you. There was another question over on this side, I think I saw. And perhaps the lady in the back.
C'est à moi. Véronique Blin from France, Intercinet. Dear Mike Leigh, I would like to ask you something about that very extraordinary and great scene of flamenco scene, which is for me the real jewel of your beautiful film. And I would like to know how you did get involved involved personally in such an expressive dance, as you are, for me, the king of inner feelings and the way to express them. And finally, I thought in myself, maybe he found the right way to express the deep feeling inside. That scene is extraordinary for me, that express revenge, hate, but also love. And I would like to know how you did get involved in that dance.
Well, that's a very easy question to answer. I don't know the answer to it. Well, I suppose on one level, what attracts me to flamenco is indeed the fact that it is a succulent, sexy, joyous kind of dance, which is in fact full of pain, and that the tension between those things is what's attractive about flamenco. The far more mundane answer to the question as to which you may be asking me, which is why the flamenco is there at all. It's because in our journey, Sally's and mine, we were discussing at one point in the development of the whole story what else Poppy might do. We've got her learning to drive, we've got her going to trampoline, and Sally said, well, I think she would go to flamenco lessons. And that's a very good illustration of how it works with her. You know, I thought, that's a good idea. And it so happens that one of the actors in the film who I was just starting to sort out what she was going to be and do is a very talented English actress called Corina Fernandez. Her father is Spanish. And so she and I, unbeknownst to Sally, we started to develop this character who was a flamenco dancer, and she went and explored flamenco and learnt how to do it and learnt how to teach it and did all those things, and we created this character from Seville. And I just thought it would be wonderful fun to take Poppy and drop her into this world with its extra complication of the teacher's own private suffering, which is both tragic and hilarious, I think. And somehow when the teacher lets out her passion the way she does and shares her pain and her love and her, what's happened to her, that seems to me to relate to the sensuality of flamenco itself. Do you want to say something about flamenco, or not necessarily to do with what I've said?
Like Mike said, it came from just a sort of a gem of an idea. Poppy is what Poppy's about is doing and staying active and being, and flamenco was just one of those things that was mentioned that she would like to have a go at, and then, like Mike says, it becomes this incredible scene, and where you see this woman just falling apart. But I mean, flamenco is fantastic, and it have this incredible energy and sexy, sensual energy, and with a real strength. And
do you think Poppy will? We don't know, but Poppy will take to it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. She loves she loves dancing and keeping moving, and I mean, she'd do anything, but she might not necessarily be very good at it, but she'd give it a damn good go.
Thank you. Question over here, please.
Hi, my name is Eric from Reuters. The first question is to Mike. You make the severe people in this film look really, really severe and really, really nasty. Was that a special enjoyment that you had, making them look so evil and unhappy? And to Sally, are you really such a happy-go-lucky person, or are you just a good actress?
You answer that.
It's all acting.
The thing is, I don't accept the premise of your question. I don't think that certainly there's no nihilistic pleasure in my part in showing anybody in a negative way. My job is what it's always been in all my films, which is to show people how we are, and that's good and bad. There are no black and white good or bad people in this film. There are no black and white ugly or Of course, the categories can be created in a general way, but actually I hope that with, say, these two characters, we look at them both in a three-dimensional way, and of course she's a positive force, and of course he's a negative energy, but you can't see him, Scott, and read the film without understanding him, and in some way, however reprehensible some of what he says and doesn't says is, without in some way understanding him and sympathise with him. So I don't really buy into your the way you define the way I portray people, and I certainly don't have those pleasures. Of course, Poppy is this energetic, outgoing, positive person with a sense of humour. And although, as Sally says, she is Sally Hawkins and Poppy is the character, it would be ridiculous, even in after the few minutes that you've been sitting here, for me to would be ridiculous for me to say that Sally Hawkins herself was completely unlike Poppy, and indeed that Sally Hawkins was a dour, pessimistic, bleak person with no sense of humour, because plainly that isn't the case.
I'm a nightmare. Yeah.
Thank you. The gentleman in the front row.
Ms. Michaely, my answer has actually already been answered, but since you spoke about your approach, your positive approach, do you think that could be useful not only in cinema, but also on a larger scale, on a social, political scale, such a more joyful and positive approach?
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying. I've already said that if the film expresses anything, or if there's any intention with the film, it's to share with audiences its spirit, so that in some way you might go away and you may just reflect on the way that you live your life, the way we all live our lives, and the way we conduct ourselves on whatever scale you like to consider it. It is important that we confront ourselves with the realities of life and with the negatives and the pain and the suffering that we all go through. But it's equally important that we take life and celebrate it where and how we can. As I've already said, I don't want to repeat what I've said earlier. But yes, it's a short answer to your question.
Thank you. There was a question here in the back, please.
I have a question for Ms. Sally and for the director. Ms. Sally, how much of Poppy did you take away in your reality of life?
Actually, quite a lot. And I think I learnt a lot from her, and the fact that she is so open and full of this love of life, and the way she is so non-judgmental about herself and about others. I am naturally optimistic as a person, but Poppy is on another level entirely. And but what I think she's got life sussed, and I think she is all embracing to everyone. She doesn't give herself a hard time. She doesn't give other people a hard time. And if I want to take that away, I want to take away her incredible energy and this bubble. She has a effervescent, sort of bubbly nature, which is, I just couldn't be tired or even a bit down playing her. As soon as I stepped into her shoes, you sort of take off. And she was a joy to play. And however hard life can be, which it can be, I think a takeaway is it's always easier when you treat it with smile and humour.
The second part of your question.
The second part is to the director. Europe is living this problem about cultural clash, and you decided in a comedy to put it so nicely and beautiful in the mouth of Mr. Scott. How did you manage to do it?
This guy, this character, Scott, is a confused... Tell me if you joined in with me, as I go. He's a guy that's, in a way, he's a kind of magpie, He's got ideas that come from here and there, and some of what he says actually, taken out of his context, would make sense. And a lot of it is nonsense, and quite a lot of it isn't nonsense, but it is nonsense because he doesn't understand what it is. And that's right, isn't it? So I think it's important that you can't decode the film in terms of taking what he says literally or in a sense seriously. But you can isolate some of what he says, and in itself, he is talking about things which of themselves are serious. Do you want to add to that?
No, I think the only pleasure Scott has in life is blaming other people. And when you blame other people and take no responsibility for your own life, your life goes nowhere. And he's like a lot of men, inarticulate men, really. He's very powerless, and he feels very powerless in the face of an ever-changing world. And what you have to ask yourself is, when wasn't the world ever changing, really? And he just has to wise up, really.
Thank you. The gentleman with the camera here, please.
Gentleman with the camera, thank you. 2 questions, please, for Mr. Leigh. Hello, or hello from Channel 10 News in Israel. So I wanted to know, I know you said earlier that you don't want to talk about the Oscar, but there's a huge enthusiasm in Israel for the nomination of the movie before to the next Oscar, who won some prizes here last year. So I wanted to know first if you saw it, what you think about it. And the second question, do you believe that there is a Jewish humor, special Jewish humor, and can we see a Jewish humor in this movie of yours? Thank you.
I repeat that I don't want to say anything about the Oscars, not even to you. And my second answer to you is yes. Next question.
Next. Yes, we had over on this side, please. Thank you. Yes.
Hello. Konstantin Stavropoulos from Greek Search Radio. I would like to ask you about, as you call it, the dark side of the film, if I'm seeing correctly. There is an absence of healthy men in the film, if allow me to say so.
Healthy men?
So, healthy men.
Healthy men?
Sorry, I'm put
yes,
it in.
Healthy men.
Yeah, like, I mean, like we have the character who is in a strange situation, the basic male character. We have another male character which is a very nice person, which is not, to my view, up to Poppy.
Who's that?
Poppy's boyfriend.
And isn't he a healthy person?
Yes, he's very healthy.
Seems healthy to me.
No, sorry. Please don't forget the word, it's not my point.
Okay.
But men are not so strong in the film. It's not about men, the film.
Isn't it?
It is about, but somehow in the back seat. And so I would like you to comment on this.
I think the questions I've asked you while you were constructing the question are my comments on your question.
Okay, thank you very much.
How about these people over here?
2 down.
Hello, I've got 2 questions for Mike Leigh. First, about the screenplay, how much of the dialogue is amazing and how much of it was tightly scripted and how much was ad-libbed? I'm thinking especially of the scene with the bum late at night. And the second question is, what made you follow up Vera Drake, which was a film with a very different sort of a very different sort of character with this film? Thank you.
I'll answer the second question first, if I may. I've already said that, you know, the job for me is to be as interesting and as different as I can. Where are you? The question. Sorry. As interesting and as different as I can from film to film. Actually, it so happens that I think that Vera Drake herself, the character of Vera Drake, and Poppy are actually not completely dissimilar as characters. Obviously, their circumstances are very different. Their age, and all kinds of things are different in their the condition of their lives. But each of them is a positive woman who takes a positive look at things, is disposed to be sharing and helpful, and I think there are similarities for what that's worth. But, you know, at the end of the day, each film exists on its own merits and has its own agenda. And, you know, it seems to be logical to, when you do something, to simply move to tap into a different side of the whole ongoing investigation that is one's work. And that's what I do. What was the other part of your question? I've forgotten. Well, you know, this film is the same as all my films. It evolves out of a whole lot of work that went on for months before we shot it, which consists entirely of improvisation and investigation and discussion and research. And gradually we whittle it down to something very precise that we shoot. I mean, there is perhaps in this film a slightly greater percentage of some material in a limited way that is slightly more improvised in the scenes in the car between Eddie and Sally. Because of the nature of driving around. Those are very structured scenes, but within that action there are some margins of improvisation, but it's very rare. And actually the scene you mentioned, when Poppy runs into this old guy, this tramp, in this dark, strange place, was a very, very tightly structured and carefully constructed, for me, I hope, poetic scene, and it's not at all an ad lib or a found object, an objet trouvé.
Thank you. The lady.
Question goes to Mr. Leigh, please. For me, it was also a movie about the profession of teaching, and because there are so many different teachers in different parts of life, please, could you comment on this motive of yours?
Yes, I mean, obviously, very simply, this film does look at questions of education, that's to say, as you say, questions of teaching. I think what's important, apart from the sheer pleasure that I hope you get, I certainly did, of, you know, Scott's arrogance in assuming that whatever she is, he thinks a barmaid or something, and he cannot wrap his head around the fact that she's a teacher, but certainly as far as he's concerned, given how she appears to him, she can only be a deeply incompetent teacher. What he doesn't know is she's an extremely good teacher and the kind of teacher that you would want your kids to be taught by. And in fact, I think what's important about his sort of teaching, which is useless, and the flamenco's kind of teaching, who is a very good teacher but allows her shit to get in the way of what she has to do, and Poppy's kind of teacher, is we see actually what the real important, serious value of a kind of philosophy of teaching is, a kind of philosophy that is about being absolutely open and behaving in a one-to-one equal way with your pupil, which is exactly what Poppy obviously does. To go back to the whole intention of the film, and I talked at the beginning about there are in the world people being, despite everything that's happening, people being positive and getting on with it. And I think Poppy is in a special character in the sense that she has this positive energy. But I am sure that just in the general scheme of things, in any country, in any place where any of us come from, that you will find people who are devoting themselves to teaching young kids who have that positive sense, not only of their own worth and their own work, and not only in their positive attitude to children, but are plainly being optimistic about the future. If you were really pessimistic about the future of the world, you wouldn't be able to walk into a classroom and, nurture children. So the film is about all of those things interlocking with each other, I would say.
Thank you. The lady in the middle, please.
Mr. Leigh, I would like to know, what were your initial ideas when you started this project? What was your starting point?
Well, I can only say that this film comes out of a feeling. I can't talk about ideas as such. Thanks, Sally. It's a film that comes out of a... You might think about this film in relation to my film of 15, whatever it was, years ago, Naked, which came out of, in the first place, out of a feeling about things. And in a way, this film is, you can view it alongside Naked, because Naked and Johnny in Naked and Poppy in Happy-Go-Lucky are both idealists, and you see them going through the world and interacting with people. The difference is that obviously Johnny was an idealist who is disappointed and frustrated and is forced in on himself and becomes negative, and Poppy, as we've talked about extensively, is plainly the opposite. But even that is me talking about this film retrospectively, now that I've made it. When I started, I had a feeling for a kind of spirit that I wanted to investigate, and through that, something that I intuitively or instinctively wanted to say. And I knew that I wanted to make a film which would, in the first place, involve Sally, and that the plan was to create, having worked with Sally previously on the 2 previous films, I knew that I wanted to make a film which she was at the centre in the first place, and that I wanted to make a film that tapped into some aspects of what Sally is and can access, which is those positive things, and the inventiveness that she'll bring to it. I knew would, and the comic and serious take on life would be something that we could resource for creating the film. So all of that was a sort of feeling that motivated. But beyond that, one starts to think into it in detail and to, invent other counter elements, and it grows from there, really. But it's a kind of, for me, filmmaking is an intuitive journey through which when I discover through making the film what the film is. And this is what it is.
Thank you. The gentleman in the middle has a question, please.
Hello, Matthias Halbig from the Neue Presse Hannover. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Leigh, and you, Mrs. Hawkins, could you imagine, the first thought after the film was more of her, more of that puppy. Could you imagine to let us look into the life of Poppy again, to make one more film? And could you, Ms. Hawkins, imagine to play her again?
Yes, please.
Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
No chance. No, I mean, these films that we've made, that I make, we to create these characters in this very thorough and three-dimensional way. And there's always a feeling. I mean, you could both perhaps reflect on the questions like, where are they now? What's happened to them?
Yeah.
I mean, we've only made this film within the last year, but, actors who have, and you've both done this now, who've worked on films more with greater time, sort of say, well, they think they're still there. They're still in those houses. They're still in, in those, wherever they are. Or they wonder what's happened to them. When Naked was shown at the New York Film Festival, at the question and answer session afterwards, the first question was a guy who said, Mr. Leigh, will Johnny be dead within an hour of the end of the film? I mean, which is a good question. So those questions about where are they are interesting. But I, for myself, am not remotely interested in going and investigating them by making another film about them, because each film is its own entity. It's got its own world within its discipline, and life is too short to expend time, effort, energy, or most importantly, money on reinvestigating characters when there are so many other films that one would like to make if only anyone would give us the money to do so.
I think we have time for one more question. I think was there one over here as well? No? Then this gentleman again, please.
I have a question for the producer. In a time that many people, they spend their money for big films, war films, how did you manage to put your money in this project?
It's not his money.
Indeed, as Mike says, it's not my money. What we do simply is to raise the largest amount of money that we can, and then Mike and I go away and find out really what we can do with it. And so we do it probably the wrong way around. Most people have scripts to start off with and go and budget it. What I do is go and get the money against no script, no actors or anything else, and Mike then creates something stunning out of it. So we do it back to face, really. But there we go. And anybody who has got a couple of bob left, Mike and I are looking for funding, please, for our next project, which is Untitled 09, which we will start looking at later on this year. Thank you.
Well, you started with high hopes, so it's.
I remain with great high hopes still. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Thanks for the film.
Well done.
Sorry you didn't ask more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.